the Guma or is it the Nor? Either way, the Guma is Matayr or the Nor is Matayr.
Chazon Ish on it to explain what's a suffix of Tosfos.
What he's saying, the whole letter of the Marshal is only negay by two Balabat.
It's so too bismanenu that after the Churban Bayis, so it's also not.
Fast more like the fast more the fast. Because Mike's a Kozman, you have the Schach Puzzle in between, it's being Mafsik, the Schach Kash and the Dolphin. The Kozman is going to be a Hefsik.
The Shiva said 10,000. I'm saying that I'm already gerät von Moil, 10,000.
The bottom of the sukkah is here, right now.
The house is 10, right? If you can go out from something.
Yeah, but we don't see that. When you're looking and you come to the sukkah, you don't see that. Could be two different, could be, when you have 10, that's one thing. When you have...
The Tkufa of Reb Shneur was the Tkufa of Hachivim became a Holech. The Hachova, the expansion of the Gvulas of Kedusha came in the time that Reb Shneur was the Rashiva. Both in numbers and also in the expansion of the broad spectrum of the Limudim.
This was the direction that he was heading. He was heading in this direction. Again, Reb Aaron wasn't. He was building a yeshiva, he was building the core. His avodah, so to speak, was focused in a different focus. The yeshiva Reb Shneur his focus was on expansion.
If someone knew him, his whole Metzias was Metzias of Archov. He had a gewaltige breite Leiv, breite Nefesh. And with his Mide and with his Shlichus, and with Meise Nefesh to Mekayim Shlichus, and we're here today in the Schusim of Heder Hashivas.
I remember there was a meeting. Some of the Balabatim said, we have to stop construction on the new building. First of all, do we know that the yeshiva is going to grow? Reb Aaron's not here.
Der Seid ist gewähnt der Bäuer von Teure, hat mechadisch gewähnt der ganze Musik von Teure, Geschmack in Amerika. Und Menschen haben nicht verstanden, als sie können Nimschach werden, ohne. Als da ähnlich, was kann man mal im Käume sein, können Mamschach sein, seine Schiefen, seine Skoffen, können Bäuer auf dem Weiter. Ist gewohnt ein gewaltiger Jusch.
Also, there was a fundamental discussion in the yeshiva. Some of the Elteri in the light held that the yeshiva should be very small and exclusive. I would say there were mainly three people that didn't hold like that. And at first, of course, there was Reb Shneur. And there was a mood of pessimism, but Reb Shneur was the ultimate optimist. Reb Shneur, Reb Nosson, and Martin Klein. They started rebuilding again in 63, and in 64, early part of 64, there was the Chanukah Sabayis. Children from all over the New York area came, the Chadorim came, all the Rosh Hashivas were there, Rabbi Yankif, Rabbi Moshe, the Pelzer Rosh Hashivas were there. It was an unbelievable sight. I mean, to see the Rosh Hashiva, Bunim was the Rosh Hashanah B'chol Mokum, like the Rosh Hashiva used to call him. It was a tremendous push for the yeshiva. The Chanukah Sabayis in itself put the yeshiva back on the map.
Was a dynamo. He was full of power, full of interest in helping others. And the yeshiva today exists on the basis that Reb Shneur had placed it.
His hasmada was, he was farnumen 24 hours with Torah and Klal Yisrael.
He was the Isha Klal. He was cool for the Klal. Everything he did, it was really a wonder how a person should be so mossa to the Klal. Day in and day out, he was coming out every day in New York. He used to come back to prepare the shir. The next day he used to sit, mamish, when the other person would fall from the koiches, he would sit and take a chavrusa and prepare the shir for hours at night. And
he was kindness itself. He was gutzkeit. He cared for every bacha, for every individual.
Everybody loved him. It was I think in that kufa, the impression was that there was nobody in the yeshiva Shevel that was so of by Alakoil, Chassidim, Snagdim, Torah.
My relationship with the Yeshiva Zatzal was much more than just a Yeshiva. To me, he was more of a parent. Because I came here and I didn't have a family, and my family was in Morocco, Rav Schneur became my parent. The winter of 1971, in the middle of the night, one Thursday night, about 2:30 in the morning, the Yeshiva peeked into the Beis Medrash, which was his usual style as he left, that he peeked into the Beis Medrash, and I decided to walk him home because it was late at night, and let me tell you, it must have been 0 degrees, or maybe even below 0 degrees. And we walked out, and of course the Yeshiva asked me what I thought about the day's shir. And of course I got all nervous, and I told him that I didn't understand it because it was all in Yiddish, and Yiddish was I was not so fluent in Yiddish. The Rosh Yeshiva repeated the entire shir for an hour and a half in Hebrew, in Ivrit. In the cold. He was more than frozen, and he went through the whole shir without leaving any detail, enthusiastically, as though he was talking to 400 Talmidim. He repeated the whole shir, which went from 2:30 until 4 o'clock in the morning, outside.
And one time I noticed that Rosh Yeshiva seemed like, he's always maybe tired, but he looked especially tired, and I asked Rosh Yeshiva if he's all right. It seemed very formative. So he said, no, everything's all right. He says he had a phone call from Eretz Yisrael at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, somehow I gathered that it wasn't such an earth-shattering issue. And I asked the Yeshiva, is that a person calls up, he has to call 3 o'clock in the morning? The Yeshiva gave me a look. He didn't even understand where I was coming from. He didn't chap b'chlal. What kind of... Versteht sich. Jenet darf man haben, jenet darf der Bewahr sein. Like he couldn't... It wasn't a pshat, he was giving me a teretz. He really did not understand where I was coming from when I asked him the question. The person was l'zulasa. The person existed not for himself. He existed to do chesed with others, to be marbas Torah, and to give over the Messiah, and whatever shayach to... L'man Hashem b'tzulasa. A person does not exist for himself.
He's an extremely warm person and a selfless person. That's really the word on Reb Schneur is that nicht gat kein sich and nicht gat kein sich. He always said over for Reb Shemeshkop and the Akdom Shar Yoshe that v'afterach kamoicha doesn't mean that a person doesn't exist for himself. The question is, who is he himself? Is he himself the tzimtzum of this person, or he could be koilel all of everybody else into his anoich.
Tremendous caring for Talmidim, a combination of ga'onis, brilliance, and also caring and loving of Klal Yisrael.
He was more than a person. Reb Schneur represented a force, a koyach. He had integrated so much, the hashkafis ha-Torah, and the vision from his father, Zechaynu Livracha, and from his Zayda, that he actually was a force, that was a ruach, that existed in our midst, that was able to recreate Lakewood in the image that it is today, of being a worldwide yeshiva that encompasses everybody and everything.
Hashem. b'nei Hashem Shifchi kamayim kamayim libech Lo voichach noichach b'nei Hashem
Aber man guckt auf der Binyan HaTorah, was hat sich da gebeut, man sieht die Schiefes, man sieht die Reimungus von der Eulam. Man sieht man noch sein Chäusem in der ganzen Binyan HaTorah. Und der bis, man sieht Leikud, man sieht den Paten, man sieht ein bisschen von wie sei, was gewähnt, wie sieht aufgehoben, der Kaimus Hador.
The level of learning was high, and Hasmada was great, and there's no doubt in my mind this had to do with Reb Shneya's unceasing Hasmada. Whenever he had a minute, whenever he had 5 minutes, Reb Shneya would be there with a sefer, would be there in the Beis Medrash, despite his tremendous that he was running so many organizations in America.
And then started something new, started the concept of the community kollel. The first kollel was Toronto, which was a Chiddush b'olam. There was never such a thing that a group of younger lights from yeshiva should go out of town to a different city and to make a kollel. And every year or 2 or 3 there was another kollel built. And that really changed the face of America. Every Choshev city came and had a Lakewood kollel. And that had a tremendous, tremendous ashpah, and that was Reb Shneya and the Mashgiach of Nosson.
Schatten im Bodennast von Grieße nach Birchen. Aber die Grieße hat doch nicht friedlich hat doch ist, aber sicher.
With a person that was very driven by achrayus. He was driven by responsibility. And he felt enormous responsibility for this shlichus of being mekayim davtocha of Hashem Yitbarach l'teshach mipi zarei. And there were no boundaries. Whatever he had was only for that.
He was the Ish HaSholem from Klal Yisrael. He carried Klal Yisrael on his shoulders. At the same time, he carried in the yeshiva each Yachid v'Yachid, each Bacher, he carried on his own shoulders. He felt for him. He knew when there was something wrong.
He felt the achrayus for Klal Yisrael. He always worried about everybody, to the point where the yeshiva was equal with every other need.
We saw in him the Hecherkeit of what it means, the Godel B'Teira, Marbitz Teira, the Tamar Chachim. You see the Reimus HaTorah, you saw in his every action, the Torah that brought out that Shleimus, all had that perfection to them.
Wird sagen, die Städte Chazal, dass der Ewigste Maimin gewinnt bei Elomai und Bore. Jetzt Maimin gewinnt jeder eine kann Essen zu sein Kirches, jeder eine kann zukommen zu der Gäste, Madreges. Und mit dem hat gebeut.
Chazal tell us, HaPesach Pesach lechaver nafshu chayiv lo. If somebody opens up a door for his chava, he's mechuyev nafshi chayiv lo. And in Ruchnis, it's certainly like that. The whole Olam HaTorah, we could say, is dank to Reb Shneya. The yeshiva grew. He could have been Mitzamsim, and many people thought he should be Mitzamsim. And if he would have been Mitzamsim, I don't know if the Olam HaTorah would look like it looks today.
He was like a father to me. And a person always misses his father. He was like a father to many of his Talmidim.